One item is off the agenda, isn't it?
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Planning Control Committee, 4th September 2025. Just a bit of housekeeping. Item 9.3 on the agenda has been withdrawn. That is Ladycroft Paddock. So that has been withdrawn from the agenda. We'll start with any apologies. There's just Councillor Morgan McGeehan that's missing. So we'll wait, Steve. I haven't heard anything. So, yeah. Item 2, any late items? Nope. Item 3, declarations of interest. Item 4, minutes of the meeting held on the 10th of July 2025. Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Item 5, minutes of the meeting with the Conservation Heritage Advisory Committee. I haven't done this since July, have I? You can tell. Thank you very much. Item 6, constitutional amendments. Over to you, Paul.
Thank you, Chair. It's recently been brought to my attention that members of the public get 24 days to respond to a planning application, and councillors, you only get 21 days. I know, shock. So, and that's from the Constitution. So, my recommendation is to seek your agreement to change this variance so both dates align, giving councillors 24 days to make your representations. It's effectively the call-in period. So when you receive your weekly list, the 24 days clock is ticking. Now, should you agree with the recommendation in the report, we would need to resolve to recommend to full council as detailed on paragraph 2.1. I think it is clear for everybody. It makes parity. It makes absolute sense. But Chair, I'll leave it with you. Thank you.
Do we vote on that now? Paul, sorry. Yes. Councillor Kerr.
I think I'm right in saying, Chair, that if you're a member of the public and wanting to make an objection, you can continue to send in your objections until just before the meeting. In fact, somebody this morning sent in an objection. It would probably be told to us this evening. So that's not 24 days. It's a different length of time, a variable length of time. And I just wonder how we align the fairness on this.
Through you, Chair. I have to give 24 days to members of the public. So on the day 25, we could legitimately make a decision on the planning application. But we have to wait 24 days. That's 24 days give opportunity for bank holidays, delays in the post. The postal system has changed. So second-class mail is now being delivered every other day. And it allows for Christmas Day and Boxing Day, etc. So we'll give 24 days, but on day 25, technically, we could issue a decision on a planning application. But until that decision is made, Chair, Councillor Kerr is right that we would accept letters of comment through the planning process up until the decision is made.
Come back, Lucy.
Thanks, Chair. But my point is that after that minimum period is over, if you are a public objector, you can go on saying, I object, but we haven't got a clause in our constitution that says, as a councillor, I've now had 15 people all tell me what an awful thing it is, but oh dear, we've got to day 26, and it's taken the public a bit of time to respond to me to tell me that this is a significant issue and needs to go to committee. So for an equality of opportunity, we shouldn't be putting a hard deadline on the 24 days for a councillor. We need to leave it flexible.
For you again, Chair. But on day 25, I could legitimately determine the application, which is why we encourage councillors to read the weekly list as soon as it comes out and then contact me or one of the officers raising your concerns within those first 24 days. Otherwise, Councillor Kay, you could miss the boat, effectively.
my point in this is not that, if it's obvious that this is something that needs to go to committee, it may well be obvious to planning officers that this is something that needs to go to committee. But we are representatives of the public and open to the public's contacting of us to say this is something that needs to go to committee. So we need to be able to respond to the public on the public's timescale, which might be related to when Derby Telegraph puts something on the front page, and not to when we have read about it, when it appeared to be a fairly innocuous thing on a list that we received online.
Through you, Chair, there are 3 reasons for an application to be brought before this committee. 1, if it's obvious, if it's contrary to policy. 2, if it's called in by a member of the council, a councillor, within, currently it says 21 days, 24 days, or if there are 15 or more objections to the application. I guess this recommendation is a recommendation to full council who make that decision on the constitution. Constitutionally, we are out of kilter slightly, 21 or 24 days, and I'm trying to bring that into the same sphere so that we have 24 days each. The bigger question Councillor Carey is alluding to doesn't give you that security, because I could still issue a decision on day 25. Unlikely, but we could issue a decision on day 25. So my recommendation to all councillors is always read the weekly list and get back to us as soon as possible with your concerns, or call in to Planning Committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Paul. Okay. Councillor Evans, you had your hand. You okay now? Yeah. So, thank you. Thanks, Holly. Move on. Items.
Just need to vote.
Move the. Oh yes. Move the recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Can we just have show of hands on this one, please? All those in favour of the amendment to the Constitution.
Does that now need to go to full council?
Yes. Show of hands, please. Thank you very much. That's carried. Thank you. Item 7, appeal decisions. Over to you, Ian.
Many thanks, Chair. Just a few to report tonight. The first one, 64 Monk Street. There it is on screen. Conversion of first floor outbuilding. You can see it at the bottom of the, on the western side of that site. There you go. Thank you, Leah. Together with installation of an external staircase to form one flat. And we've got concerns about the relationship here. It's really rather tight between that proposed conversion and number 64. So we've got concerns about living conditions, and then also impact on character. There were also impact on other neighbours as well. So Inspector agreed with us. The only thing he didn't give any real attention to the issue of character, given its position within the street at the back of a site. So it's worth a read. Talks about the tilted balance, of course, because that's the position we're in with only 2.7 years of a housing land supply. So that was a good decision, Chair. That was dismissed. Crown Street, this was a HMO. We got concerns over the communal space and some of the internal arrangements at first floor level. There's a very small amount of internal space, communal space. You can see in the centre of that ground floor plan, only served by a door that leads on to the rear yard area, and the room 2 that just looks out onto that area where cycle parking is annotated. So we had concerns there about the living conditions, and the inspector duly agreed and dismissed that appeal. The third one on the list is a rather unusual one. It's been with us for some time, as you can see by the date, the year date on the code number. It's been with us for a few years, and it was for change of use of that outbuilding to a cosmetic procedure and beauty treatment clinic. We got concerned that these uses should be in centre, the centre first policy, and we argued that it should be in a district centre location. The inspector talked about diversification of rural buildings as an issue. He also felt that given the size of it and the floor space in question, it wasn't really going to impact on any nearby centre, and so duly allowed the appeal. So that one we lost, Chair, but it's an interesting read if you're so inclined. And then the next one is a decision that was taken out of our hands because we'd failed to make a decision, and they appealed non-determination, and it was for 2 internally illuminated display screens to replace some existing traditional poster panel adverts, and the inspector felt that it was a more than acceptable replacement scheme, and yeah, we should have made a decision on that, Chair, and that was our error, so we'll tighten up on things there, but that's the list. So we had 2 dismissed and 2 allowed, Chair. Thank you very much. We'll take any questions, of course.
Any questions? No. Thank you very much. Move on to item 8. Ian, you again, development control performance, Q1.
Standard report, Chair, nothing to add. I'll just take any questions. Thank you.
And you have none. Item 9, applications to be considered. We'll start with item 9.1, which is 34 St Cuthbert's Road. And over to you, Paul.
Thank you, Chair. As members will see from the report, this proposal seeks to change the use of this 3-bed detached house to a residential care home to look after 2 children. There will be 2 staff on site providing 24-hour care at any one time, with visits by a manager and occasional visits from professionals. We've had over 30 representations, including the MP and ward member, and their concerns are summarised on page 2 of your report. There are no highway objections. 2 vehicles can park on the site frontage. There are good transport links in the vicinity, and cycle racks are being proposed on site. The street has permit parking and timed parking zones along its length. And in planning policy terms, there are no specific local plan policies to determine where such care facilities can be provided. And of course, other legislative regimes control the actual management and operation of these facilities. For members of the public, it's not unusual for us to see these types of applications coming in, particularly for 2 children. The main issues, as expressed by many in objection, are the fear of noise, disturbance and antisocial behaviour. I have no evidence, however, to suggest that a properly run care home would be significantly different to the activity from any other family who might move into the property. There's no evidence to demonstrate that the character of the street would be harmed by the proposal. Members, you will have recall the many applications we've had and appeal decisions we've had recently, which colleagues have been through in depth, particularly regarding looking after 2 children. Accordingly, we've been through the technical disciplines, and there is nothing to demonstrate that this proposal will be any worse or different from a normal residential property use. And accordingly, the proposal is to recommend the proposal for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Paul. Any questions from the committee? Councillor Bonser.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I mean, there are a lot of fears expressed about this change of use, and I would like to put forward at this early stage that we adopt the same practices we've used in previous similar situations, and include a 1-year review period, so that it really sends a message to the management company that they need to engage with the community, they need to put forward an appropriate management plan, And all the points that we've argued previously in similar circumstances. I mean, residents can't call on evidence to back up an argument against this because it's not in operation yet. But I think, you know, that they want the opportunity to be able to review the situation when the place is up and running and ensure that it is being properly managed. So I would like to propose that we include that sort of provision again, please.
Thank you for that. Yes, I would second it. If anyone else wants to second it, Councillor Bolton, yes. And I think all those in favour of that. Councillor King, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. There's been cases where we've put in this sort of condition, and it's been clear to local people that the building may actually have not been in use, or it has been hardly in use. And then you can say that after a year, there have been no problems, because there's been nothing active, no significant activity happening there. And I think there needs to be some qualification to make sure that there's been a year's worth of use and not just 12 months as it has passed.
Councillor Lawson.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's just a question about the permit parking and whether any permits would be available to the applicant, because I would suggest there shouldn't be. There are 2 spaces on the drive, and if we could make that a condition, then it would control any on-street parking issues.
On 8.4 of your report, note to applicant 1, the applicant should note that the proposed redevelopment will not qualify for the issue of residence parking permits. So that we've covered that. They need to park on site.
Thank you for that clarification.
Lucy.
Thank you. Different issue, Chair, which is related to the cycle parking. Note that the existing garage is being converted into an office. If there was still the garage there, then that would be a place where the young people would be able to keep their bicycles, because I would hope that particularly as the manager is going to be cycling, there will be opportunities for the young people to learn how to become competent and safe cyclists. But there doesn't seem to be any clear, sensible, secure parking for the householders, and I think that needs to be included. So as part of the condition relating to the car and cycle parking arrangements, I don't think it should be saying as shown, because the as shown would not be adequate for the children's cycles. But it needs to be something to be agreed.
You okay with that, Paul? Yeah. Yep. Okay, Lisa, that's noted. Yep. Sue. Thanks,
Chair. Sorry, I didn't mean to mention this when I spoke first, but just a bit of reassurance. I mean, I know we're talking about change of use here, but I think there was some concern over the appropriateness of the layout inside. But would that be a matter for the people who are going to manage it, and ultimately Ofsted or whoever's going to regulate it, in terms of the bathrooms and things? But
through you, Chair, yes, it's not a planning issue.
Yeah.
I'm concerned with the land use and making sure the land use is correct and works okay externally.
Yeah. And I recognise, obviously, that there is a need to support children in care. But thank you.
Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Chair. It's only, you might not be able to do this, but I agree with what's been stated, where we look at it for a year or possibly more and then review it. Would there be any way we could do that in perpetuity, so that the residents around there are reassured in 5 years' time, when something happens bad or whatever, that it can be, the planning can be withdrawn? I don't know how we stand on that.
It's a good question. There are rules on how and when we can use conditions. And I think it would breach those rules by giving them a permission and if you don't play ball, we take it away. The opportunity is in the first 12 months of it being brought into use. They need to do it properly and run it properly in accordance with not just our requirements but all the other management regimes, to make sure that the operation sits comfortably within the building and within the surroundings without detriment. When it comes back in 12 months or so time, we will no doubt hear from the gallery and others whether that's worked. And it's in their interests to make sure it runs properly from day one.
John? Yeah.
But with the greatest of respect, if it is running properly after 12, 18 months, everything's fine. But then 3 years, 24, 48 months down the line, it's not. That's it. It's the end, isn't it? We've got nothing we can come back on.
We are concerned with the land use. Is that land use correct? The running of it is a separate issue, which other regimes will control. We're concerned because if it works well in the first 12 months in terms of its land use, you know, the coming and goings, etc., the car parking, it's going to pretty much be the same for the years afterwards, should it get planning permission next time round. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Paul. Do them both together? Yeah, so we've got the conditions. And any other questions first? But if not, we'll vote on the conditions that have been put forward by Councillor Bonser and Councillor Kerr. So all those in favour of those conditions for the year once it's been in operation? It starts from that once it's been in operation. So all those in favour?
And the cycle.
And the cycle one, yeah. Any against? That's carried.
Then we need to vote on the main.
Then now we need to... Sadly, we can't take your hands up on that. If there's no further questions, we'll vote on the application itself. So, you want to speak, Matt? Yep, come in.
Thank you, Chair. Paul just touched on this, and it may be worthwhile just taking a moment to explore what he said. A well-run care home should have zero impact on local people and those living nearby. And in some cases, in many cases, that is the case. And that's how it should be. But if there are issues that are genuinely causing impact on quality of life of those who live nearby, neighbours, as Paul has said, there are other regimes. So can we just explore what they are? Because I think from a local residents' point of view, wherever they are in the city, and also ward councillors dealing with potential issues, and we hope that it's a well-run home and it won't have those, and it should not have those issues. But if that's the case, sometimes it is very difficult to actually get that support quickly from the council and actually to know which regime, which department, which officers are going to actually help with the situation and quickly as well. Because what we can't have is a company that may not be running a particular facility or home well, being allowed to do that. And so I think there needs to be reassurance from those here tonight in the public gallery, but also in general, from officers, planning officers, a clear explanation of what their remit is and how they would recommend other issues beyond that be dealt with. Because it's easy saying that other regimes will deal with it, but what do you mean, Paul?
Through you, Chair. My initial answer is Ofsted, but I point members to condition 3, which long condition talks about a management plan. In there, it says the management plan shall also include details of the managers at the care home to ensure that local residents can contact those individuals to address any concerns they have with the operation of the use. So it's a two-way thing. Residents you'll have via the condition on the planning application, which will be on our website, the details of the management company or the manager to contact should you have any issues. And the management plan gets implemented and updated when required and retained for the life of the development. So it's there for the first 12 months, and if they only gets 12 months planning permission, that's it. But thereafter, to cover a lot of Councillor Evans's points, the management plan is there rolling forward and being updated. So there's contact details via the planning application, which is on the website. So people could contact us, but I would refer them straight to the website. It's there, they're the up-to-date details if there are any issues. So it takes the council out of, or planning out of the equation to talk direct with the care home professionals. Thank you, Chair.
Okay with that, Matt? Right, we'll vote on the application then. All those in favour of the application? With the conditions. With the conditions.
That's 7, Chair.
7. Any against? 1 against and 3 abstentions. Thank you very much, everybody. That's that application has been granted. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. We move on to item 9.2, 111 Mark Eaton Street, Derby. Over to you, Ian.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this item's been before. You'll recall, and we've secured amended plans. There were concerns. Shall I give it a minute, Chair? Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yes, we've received amended plans, Chair, following the deferral at the previous meeting, and we've got more communal space in the top floor. We've got the communal space on the ground floor, as you can see, in the centre, and then we've got communal space upstairs. So it's now 6-bed, 6-occupant HMO. It's in the Article 4 area, of course. If this was in another area of the city beyond the bounds of the Article 4 direction, it would in fact be a C4 use. So we've secured that amendment. We feel it's reasonable in this case. We've got the external provision of cycle parking, bin storage, etc. There aren't any overriding concerns from our highways colleagues, and so we feel it's now an acceptable proposition, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. Any questions, committee? None. We shall proceed to the vote. All those in favour of the application?
Eight in favour, Chair.
Any against? That's carried then. Application passed. Thank you very much, everybody. Move on to item 9.4. You again, Ian. St James's House, Mansfield Road, Derby. Thank you.
I have a bit more to say on this one, Chair. Brace yourselves. We've had some updates, Chair. These were circulated. The conditions have been fleshed out and shared with the agent. So those conditions that were circulated are in a fuller version compared to the report. On to the main report, Chair. As your report states, this full planning application seeks permission for the change of use of the upper 3 floors of St James House, shown on your screen, from office accommodation to an education facility under use class F1. The facility would be a special educational needs school and would accommodate a maximum of 100 pupils. The site's located on the junction of Mansfield Road and Fox Street in the southwestern corner of the prime Enterprise Park. The building was constructed in 1999. The ground floor of the application building is currently occupied by Rogers Leask, who are a local engineering consultancy, and they would retain 39 on-site parking spaces. In the wider setting, of course, Chair, the application site, there is Landau 40 School, which is located to the south of the site, and to the north and east are further businesses and St Mary's Wharf Police Station. And to the west is the residential area at the bottom end of City Road. The 3 stairwell and access points would be communal and shared between the existing ground floor offices and the proposed school. The application has been made on behalf of Castle School, which is an existing facility, but requires relocation from Cedar Street. The application building is currently owned by a third party, but would be purchased by the council upon receipt of a favourable planning decision. Your report and the submitted upper floor plans provide details of the arrangement of the school and the facilities to be offered to the pupils. In terms of external facilities, the applicant indicates that pupils are unlikely to use the outdoor space as a traditional type of playground, but would provide an opportunity for breakout space, informal learning and time away from the classroom. In terms of facilities, it is anticipated that seating for pupils and staff would be provided, along with weather protection, canopy and small areas of landscaping and planting. In terms of material considerations, Chair, there are no overriding objections to the loss of the floor space from office use in terms of the quantum or quality of the space in line with policy CP10 of the DCLP1. Environmental issues relating to land contamination, noise, air quality and flooding have been addressed during the life of the application and subject to certain conditions. There are no overriding objections. And within your report, there's a thorough assessment of the transport demands of the school based on its maximum occupancy, the average levels of attendance at the school, the specific start and finish time of the school day, and the particular travel movements associated with the SEND offer. You'll note the start and finish times deviate, they're different from the Landau Forte offer, so the prospect of there being on-street competition and busy movements, they won't align, Chair. There are contingency plans in place should parking demand prove to be an issue. And as your report states, the applicant has agreed to monitor the operation of the car park and implement a management strategy based on key trigger points. And that's included in the last condition that was circulated yesterday, Chair. As such, the development meets the transport criteria under the MPPF. And we feel there are no grounds to refuse this development on the tests of severity or safety. And is on hand tonight should these points require clarification, and the report is supplemented with very useful diagrammatic form from a transport perspective. Therefore, Chair, with the updated conditions in place, I would promote the recommendation, which aligns with the guidance in the NPPF, which states that local planning authorities should take a proactive, positive and collaborative approach to meeting this requirement and to development that will widen choice in education. They should give great weight to the need to create, expand or alter early years, schools and post-16 facilities through the preparation of plans and decisions on applications. And Chair, you have no speakers. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. Questions, anybody? I'm going to go from the back first. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question on the point around the majority of students being dropped off and picked up directly from the school, in and around the school. Is there a specific drop-off and pick-up location within the plans? I might have missed it, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you can access the site, and as you can see on the plan, you access the site from Mansfield Road, and the internal circulation system. As you're coming from Mansfield Road, you go around the half-circular landscaping and into the site, into the blue hatched area, and the main access for the building is in the centre of the rear elevation. There is an access point off of Fox Street, but that's got 3 bollards in place, so there's only the access point from Mansfield Road. You've got the Coroner's Court as you come into the site that faces down into the access, and then you've got St Peter's House, which is a smaller building that you can see just to the south of the Coroner's Court, but you just make your way through the car park and then you exit out. So access egress from that central single point. As you come in off of Mansfield Road, if you turn left, the old St Mary's Wharf goods yard building, there's parking associated with that. That's to the northern part of that plan form. But yes, there's only one way in, one way out, and the assessment that's been provided based on the TA and based on queuing information and the nature of the use in terms of people requiring drop off and pick up by either parents, carers, or taxis. That's been assessed. But that's the arrangement, Councillor Patterson.
Thanks, Ian. Councillor Bolton.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I've visited this building several times as a governor at St Mary's Catholic Voluntary Academy. Well, obviously, when we had the fire at the school on Broadway, St Mary's relocated here for nearly 3 years. So I think this establishment is well suited for educational purposes. Further to the comment from the previous councillor, when St Mary's were there, we had nearly 300 pupils. Clearly, I noted from Ian's comments, there's only 100 pupils, but the site is very well laid out. There is a drop-off point, I can assure the councillor who asked the question, for buses and pupils who need the special care, and I obviously take on board the provision here is for 100 pupils with special needs, and they will be cared for. My other point was that there is the safeguarding aspect here. It is secure, the site, the outdoor play area that Ian referred to, it is properly segregated from the car park, it's safe. Clearly that was an issue when St Mary's moved there, but there are all the precautions carried out for safeguarding implications, because the company on the ground floor obviously do still operate, but I can assure members that when it was used temporarily for St Mary's, it was a very efficient, and there were no instances on site that I was concerned about. When they moved there initially, I was concerned there's no outdoor play area as such, and I take on board what's said in the report that the children who will be occupying this building won't necessarily be wanting that space. But obviously just over the road there's the Chester Green public open space, if they did want, you know, some grassed area. But I've got no hesitation that this, you know, won't be an excellent education facility, and I'm sure it will be better than where they are at the moment at Cedar Street. The provision and the education environment, I feel, is much better here. So I will endorse the application.
Thanks, sir. Councillor Bonser, she did beat you earlier.
Thank you, Chair. I do have some reservations about this, and I just wonder if you could expand on, in the objection, there was a reference to BB 104, I couldn't get a link to work, area guidance for send and alternative provision, saying that it didn't comply. Can you enlighten me on that, please?
I'm assuming that that's a specific educational policy reference. It's not something that we would readily deal with, Councillor Bonser. That would be down to, again, Ofsted and the educational providers, whether there's a different regime for send facilities, but that would all be covered by, as Paul indicated with the last application, it would be Ofsted, our own education colleagues and others involved in this. But I mean, in terms of, if you look at the floor plans, they've got, you know, good outlook, you know, good large window openings, central corridors. It's a logical layout. It's not a contrived floor plan or anything like that. It's very, very logical. So I would have thought that it, you know, might be tweaks to make it acceptable. But as Councillor Bolton said, it was previously used as a temporary school. So.
Yes, sorry, Chair. I'm just concerned that this is a very different school to St Mary's, and if this is relocated from Cedar Street, is that the pupil referral unit? No. Special needs. The special. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Kerr.
Thank you. The main issue with this, for me, is the transport, and compared to when it was used for St Mary's, I know St Mary's had, I think, quite a fleet of buses that transported people from the old school site down to here. So there weren't as many parent movements or taxi movements than this might require. Because we also know the normal area for young people coming to Ascend School is likely to be the whole of the city and not a portion of the city. It mentions in the report that the bus station is around 800 metres walking distance from the site. And one of the things that I've celebrated in other meetings within the council is that we have a team of people who work with young people, secondary age, to encourage them, enable them to be more independently mobile and not to be quite reliant on either parents or taxis for their travel. And I don't know whether, thinking of the walking route of this nearly a kilometre from the bus station to the school, negotiating yourself past the council house or maybe along the Riverside Path, crossing the roads, it's not that easy to cross onto Phoenix Street. Is it a route that the travel trainers would think was reasonable, that the same proportion of young people going here would be able to navigate as they would hope? Obviously not every child is going to be capable of that, but is this a walking route that is going to be practical for that cohort or a significant proportion of that cohort? I don't know. And there's nothing here that sort of talks about it beyond saying there are young people who travel by bus. Is this going to work for them? And I would really like to have added to this report some expertise, some words of expertise from the Transition 2 team who are working with our young people to say whether this is going to be practical from that travel aspect for this cohort of young people. And I'd therefore suggest that if others agree with me, we defer this until we can have such a report written and bring this back to us in a month's time.
Thank you, Chair. I think what's worth pointing out, Councillor, and I take your point, Councillor Kerr, about making it an opportunity for people to use the bus station, and it's not a massive distance, and it's you know, how they can navigate that. But this is for a special educational needs provision. The pupils in question will have different. When you look through the report, there are indications about the normal occupancy of the school. It doesn't operate at full capacity. We've still not got 100 pupils in place. We haven't got the full cohort. They do have different requirements during a normal day. It's not, you know, normal schools. A normal school setting will have something like 93% student occupancy on average. This is a lot lower than that because the pupils in question have got other possible medical or educational off-site responsibilities. So it's a smaller provision, and what the assessment and the TA outlines is that people will normally arrive by private car, taxi, but it's manageable in this particular scenario. But I do think if you were keen to progress that point, I know that it's an important facility and a decision on this is important at this particular meeting. I think it's something we could pursue separately after this committee with the transition team that you mentioned, and look at how we can advertise and facilitate the use of public transport and bus travel and connections and walking to this facility for those that are able to do that. But I don't think a large proportion of this school would be looking at independent bus travel. But that's something I think we could explore, Councillor Kerr.
Do you want to come back on that one, Lucy?
Come back on that, because my hope is that if we are to meet, if we're going to be able to share the vision of a travel plan which is enabling young people to be travelling under their own steam in due course, then we don't want to open a facility that is not going to enable that to happen, because it will mean that we have more vehicles turning up than we would otherwise do. So I just feel it's something that needs to be considered at this point, and we don't want to preclude this. Maybe it's not a planning issue because we're saying that there is sufficient space and it really is an education issue. But what might be a planning issue is the suggestion at the moment that the cycle parking is on the south boundary of the site. I'm not sure exactly where the cycle parking is because I couldn't find it on the plan. But you don't want to put cycle parking against a boundary. You want to put cycle parking near, close and convenient to an entrance with good visibility and oversight and security. So I just, again, maybe on the conditions we should be identifying a better position for the cycle parking rather than accepting the first option.
Yeah, we can do that, Councillor Kerr. We can look at you know, improved location for that as a preoccupation condition. That wouldn't preclude them starting. But yeah, I don't think you know, it's in a good location, and it would be, I think, part of the management of the school to ensure that the use of the bus station and bus travel is promoted as part of the education of the pupils.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks, Lucy. We've got Councillor Rawson, Councillor Nawaz, Councillor Evans. So, Martin first.
Thank you, Chair. This is partially an operational issue, but I think it does touch on planning issues as well, and that's the access to the accommodation. Obviously, the report says that the school provision will be on the upper floors and there'll be an office use on the ground floor. But it does also say that the 3 stairwell and access points would be communal and shared between the office and proposed school. So it's just to ask really from a safeguarding point of view how that sort of checks out, and maybe get some reassurance in terms that the access to the school will be meeting safeguarding requirements in terms of having dedicated access. Secondly, in terms of access to it's not ground floor provision, and there could very well be pupils with mobility issues, and so a bit of reassurance again in terms of the students being able to access the upper floors of the building adequately, and a bit of reassurance that that's been thought through and adequately provided for. And finally, just confirmation as well in terms of the other occupiers, not just of the building but the wider site. I think from the report it does hint that it's just one other user, Rogers Leask, as the occupiers of the ground floor, but whether there are just a confirmation that there aren't any other tenants round about, or if there are, mention the Coroner's Court, but that parking has been adequately taken into account in terms of the wider needs of the site and not just the school. Thank you.
Ian?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, we can. I mean, it's an internal building issue in terms of the security, but a safeguarding issue also, Councillor Rawson. But we can put in the informative note on to say that, you know, members are concerned about that issue, and that we'll expect that will be duly incorporated into the scheme. And yeah, Rogers Leask are the only ground floor occupier. They've got 39 car parking spaces that would be retained, and I was on site today and there was plenty of space. I mean, it was at the end of the working day, but there was plenty of space available. Clearly that's something that meets their operational needs. The school would have 24 spaces, and there would be adequate provision for their needs. And other parking, as I say, there's quite a large amount of parking to the eastern side of the former Goods Yard building, to the north of the site. And yeah, colleagues have looked thoroughly at the TA and the transport components of the application. Thank you.
Councillor Nawaz? No? Okay. Councillor Evans?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm in favour of this application. In particular, particularly like the penultimate paragraph at 5.1.4 on the planning and parking and planning strategy. It's on page 43, which is really saying if that queue through the site gets to more than 20 metres, they're going to implement a pick-up arrangement in the council's car park, roughly 700 metres away. And I'd envisage that over time, the children that are picked up there aren't minibus, but they walk. And it's about a 700-metre walk. That, in effect, could, for the older ones, they could then move on to the bus station one that Lucy was talking about earlier. It's building it up to that. And it's encouraging walking. So, yeah, it gets my vote. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Miles.
Thank you, Chair. Just looking on the environmental impact around air quality, and it says that targets would be met, but notes that the air quality around there isn't necessarily great. One of the Environmental Protection Team's recommendations is around installing ventilation or a new mechanical ventilation system within the building before, to protect public health. I couldn't see that as one of the pre-commencement conditions. Is that listed down in the conditions as something that they'll need to do? Thank you.
I will look through my list, Councillor Patterson, and we will build it in if it's not. It was mentioned in the report version, the abbreviated version, but yes, we'll make sure that it is, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just certainly under the before their building becomes occupied, if that's what's being recommended by the Environmental Protection Team, then we should make sure that that happens.
Yeah, thanks, Mark.
Carl's waving to us,
yes.
Chair.
Carl, do you want to come in on that one?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just if it might assist there, this was actually only put forward as a recommendation for an advisory note rather than a condition. And the reason behind that is that planning policy currently makes reference to the national objectives. And obviously, if we're not talking about potential breaches of the national objectives, which are sort of, government guidelines, then it's not something we could probably require through a condition. We're in a strange situation in that the sort of national air quality targets are not necessarily set at the same levels as some of the health targets, for example, World Health Organization targets that are recommended. So, but obviously, planning policy makes reference to those national targets rather than these sort of other standards that there are globally. So there is a sort of disposition between those two standards, but like I say, it's not something that we could probably require through condition, other than making a recommendation through as we put forward just an advisory note.
Thanks, Carl. You okay with that?
Yeah, I guess my thinking is, if the Environmental Protection Team are recommending that there should be a new ventilation system within the building in terms of public health and improving air quality, so we're saying we can't make that a red line condition, but we can put it forward as a recommendation, but that doesn't guarantee that it will actually happen, even though it's been examined that they think it should happen. Yeah, it's just a bit confusing to me that there's clearly a concern there around the air quality and the ventilation system, but the building might end up being occupied by these kids without the ventilation system actually being improved. So, yeah.
Sarah.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just want to come back on what Councillor Rawson said regarding safeguarding. I think during my representations on this behalf, whilst I was a governor at St Mary's, and I still am, but clearly we've moved, but as I said, we've moved back to the new school. The safeguarding issues were gone through with a fine-tooth comb. There is an entrance intercom, there is a CCTV camera, the ground floor was occupied by the business, but they didn't interfere in any way with the school's operation. You were allowed in by the school's office, you went up, and then there was another intercom and CCTV. So can I please assure members that safeguarding has been covered? The St Ralph's Showing Trust would not have allowed St Mary's to move here temporarily after the school fire if the safeguarding wasn't sufficient.
Thanks for that, Sarah. Any others? Thank you very much, Gulfraz. We shall move to the vote. All those in favour of the application? With the tweaks. With the tweaks.
Is that 9 in favour there, Chair?
2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yep. 10. I don't know whether Tim was holding his hand up or just, yeah. Yeah, it's just, anyone against? Any against? No.
10
That's it. That's granted then. Thank you very much, everybody. Last application for the night, item 9.5, 6 Glenorchy Court. Paul.
Thank you, Chair. I bring to you an application to do works to a tree. It's the pruning of the canopy of a protected oak tree to provide clearance to structures and crown lifting to 3 metres alongside a 10-year management plan to stop it coming back year after year. The pruning would provide 1.5 metres canopy clearance to a garage and 4 metres from the nearest dwelling. Arborist has assessed the proposal in section 7 of your report, and it's recommended that this specific detail is considered acceptable and the management scheme for the tree in this location. We do have one objection, which I think you've already had copies of, and Andy's comments about the absence of essential detail. That detail was effectively around general maintenance and pruning anyway, and my ARB officer is satisfied with that we don't need an engineer's or surveyor's report to support this application, and your recommendation is to grant consent subject to conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Paul. Matt.
Just a very quick question. Why wasn't this a delegated decision? Just to take us through that process, Paul.
That is a very good question, and my answer is that the applicant is related to a member of staff. So to be clear, we just brought it before you to deal with. Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions? Lucy, we're not talking about cycle parking around this, are we?
No.
Right, okay.
I was going to talk about learning from something like this, because one of the comments is that this tree is pretty big and it's beside a house, and why was the house built so close to it? Because it's quite an old tree. And I think that, you know, probably the house has been there 40 years. The tree was probably 100 years already, maybe 60 years. It will still be growing. And I think we just need to be mindful that when we see a plan and a picture of a tree, that the house or building that's going to be constructed is expected to be there for 100 years. And how big will that tree that we think is important be in 100 years' time? So that we don't leave people in future generations with this sort of issue. And I think it's just a learning point. And we also need to be strong about that, because there are times when they'll come back and say, well, you know, that tree is only that size. And we need to be able to say, yeah, but that tree is also only 30 years old. And when it's 200 years old, you will be pleased that you haven't built a house there.
I think, firstly, it's probably my fault it's got a TPO in it. I did the TPOs way back in the summer of '86. I'm still here. But it's not my fault the houses are built too close to the tree. When we get an application in, we always ask for, and Andy, our tree officer, always asks for a realistic canopy spread of those trees. And we're always learning, we're always evolving to get more and more detail. And as Councillor Kerr says, we need to be planning a lot better for retaining trees without having to burden committee with applications like this, because the house has been built further away from the trees in the first place. But we are where we are. We want to preserve our trees and also get our housing growth. So we're trying to accommodate both at this present time. But as I say, it's my fault it's got a TPO on, and I'm sorry.
Shall we move to the vote? All those in favour of the application? We've got a unanimous one.
Yeah, thank
well
you.
done. Thank you, everybody. You've been counted, don't worry. You can put your arms down. Move on to item 10. Ian, potential future site visits.
Thank you, Chair. Just 3 to talk about tonight. 48 Pastures Hill being the first one on offer. Extensions, alterations, changes used from 1 dwelling to Form 11 flats. It's a fairly sizable offer, but you can see it from the road, or you can go to site if you see fit. Probably on the opposite side, I think, Councillor Kerr. Oh, was it on that side? Ah, there was. You're right. Yes, it was at the back of number 50, I think. Yes. Yes. Yeah. That's a long time ago, Councillor Bond. Yeah. Good memory. That's a no. Okay. 73 Monk Street, Chair, full application, demolition of car showroom, and then 3 6-storey blocks for student accommodation. Right on the edge of the new inner ring road. Well, relatively new inner ring road. See that? And the last one is an old condition, a variation of an old condition restricting goods to be sold from this particular unit. Not particularly interesting stuff, but don't tell Richard Carruthers. Thanks a lot.
Right, thank you, everybody. Thank you, officers, for turning up and sitting there and listening to us ramble on. And thank you, Nigel, for turning up. Hope you got something interesting going in the Telegraph tomorrow on this meeting. So, and thank you, everybody. Thank you, Leah, for running the controls, and thank you, everybody. And thank you, and see you next time. Thank you very much.